be able to generate everything that's coming up from below. So that's the same thing with us. When we find support and push away from it, it creates a core stability through your trunk. Right? You've heard of core stability and core training, maybe along the line somewhere. And a lot of people train and teach that you should take your belly button and pull it to your spine, and that's how you activate your core. That's a piece of it, but when you look at babies, all they do is when they're on the ground like this at 5 months old, that's the first time before they don't ever turn over or do any of that stuff until they have developed a support point through here. See that, how I've grounded myself there? Now in order to turn, like I can turn, but if I turn, and if I'm an underdeveloped baby, I'm gonna turn and my neck's gonna do this, and my back's gonna turn, and that's a signal that you've got a problem in a kid. If they can't make that connection and create stiffness and pressure through here, they don't have a fixed point to move from. Okay? They have to have this first before they can efficiently do that. Right? Same thing with us. If we're going to bend over and pick something up, if we bend over without that center and that pressure, and we let our ribs just kind of go flaring forward, when we lift up, we're going to overload our back and injure ourselves because we don't have proper, efficient core stability through here. And that's created through pressure. So this is what we're going to do. Everybody's going to put their thumbs at the base of their ribs down below. Like between your ribs and your pelvis, there's should be a little gap there where you can find a little shelf, right? And then you can wrap around your fingers around the front, just below the front of your ribs, like through the middle, through your core here. And when you take a breath in, you should feel that whole area kind of expand out into your hands. Okay, so that's what we're going to try. And the breath in is going to go into the center. And normally, people get into an upward breath up into here. You feel that, Mike? So when you breathe in, you create pressure. So your breathing creates your core. Because that's all we did as babies. We laid on our back and we breathed and we created a core. That's how our core stability was created. So your breath can create that core. There's another way to do it, and that is just bracing. Okay, bracing is in the same situation. You're going to basically you're going to imagine that your pelvic floor down below. You want to stop like you're stopping the flow of urine or bowel movement. So that's the bottom of the container. Okay, we're going to keep that on, and then you're going to brace like you're bearing down, coughing, sneezing, laughing, all that stuff makes the center pop out.
Do you feel it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And it's so funny when I'm working with people on this and trying to help them find it, they start laughing because they're not catching it, they're not getting it, and I'm saying, okay, and then they start laughing. I said, that's it. All you have to do is laugh. You ever have a butt gusting laugh where you just laugh and you're sore the next day because you laugh so hard? That's the true brace. That's the true core. That's the ability to pressurize your container. That's what gives you the power to lift a heavy load or throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball or push a wheelbarrow or not fall when you push a wheel. Whatever, you have to be able to create and manage intra-abdominal pressure.
The ability to brace and breathe.
To do it both at the same time, because that's, if you're in the middle of lifting something heavy and you got to carry it, you got to stay braced, but you still got to breathe at the same time. All right, so if you can brace and breathe at the same time, that's mastering your core stability system. So the practice point there is anytime. Let's change the scenery.
Okay.
Like if I was going to lift this, which I'm not, but, you know, this heavy chain here, if I was going to pick this up and lift it, right? First thing is, using your body efficiently means you never want to lift anything with your spine. See where my spine is right now? See the roundedness in it? If I put a load through that, I'm going to blow a disc. Or I have a potential of making my disc material in between my vertebrae squirt out backwards and cause a disc herniation, disc bulge, and put me out of commission for a long time. So that's the first thing, is you never want to lift with your butt underneath you and this big C-spine. That's not designed to take an efficient load. Instead, it's funny. I thought he was mocking me. Instead, you got to get your butt out, flat back, and now we go boom, we brace, and now all I have to do to lift this load is use my butt muscles. The glutes are the master poppers, right? All this is doing is staying in line. The only thing moving here is my ball and socket joint, called a hip hinge. Everybody's going to do that. You ready? Keep your core strong. Get your brace. So if I come around and I come poking on you, let me feel. Brace. Stiffen into my finger. Brace. Good. Let me feel. Brace. Stiffen. Laugh. There it was. Okay. Make that stiffness first, and then all you do is you just reach your tail straight back. So there's no bend in your spine. Your spine is straight. All you're doing is you're just sticking your butt as if you were trying to touch your butt out to touch something. That's what it would be like. Okay? Good. That's a good hip hinge. You see your hip hinge, right? You can soften your knees. You don't have to have straight knees. Actually, you should have bent knees whenever you're doing this. If you're bending over to pick something up, soften your knees a little bit. There you go. Good. Your butt way out. Soften your knees. There you go. Now stick your butt way out. Now that's a hip hinge. You need to be able to find only your ball and socket joints working. Another thing that helps is to put your hands right in the crease of your hips, and so it swallows up your hands whenever you bend over. But that's a movement pattern that is a natural, efficient movement pattern that we go through. You know, you think about back to babies, right? Here we are. Babies they go from here to here to bear crawl. They bear crawl, and then they walk to a squat, and then they get up. That's kind of that's the natural progression. Okay, but see what they're doing? Their back is flat, and all they're doing is using their hips. Just like that. And when they get up, all they're doing is their core is strong, and they push with their glutes, and up they go. So your glutes are what you use to do any kind of heavy lifting. 8, 9 times out of 10, when I see somebody with back pain, it's because their hips they don't use, I say, okay, bend over. And they do that. I'm like, okay, let's do this instead. And all of a sudden we have a completely different movement pattern that spares your spine and saves your discs. Like people who have blown out discs, disc herniations and things like that, if they don't learn this, that should be the first thing in any office, whether orthopedist, primary care, whatever, is learn the hip hinge.
They don't do that.
Save your spine.
I mean, nobody teaches that.
Yeah, it's fundamental. It's a fundamental movement skill that humans have, that we just get into these brain traps of doing things the way we do them, just because that's the way we watched our parents do them, or we watched our teacher do them, or our preacher do them, or whatever, or a gym teacher, or whoever wired your brain to begin with. That's how you do it, right? And you don't know any better until you choose a different path. So you don't lift with your legs? Not necessarily. Okay, you hear that a lot, right? Yeah. Bend lift with your legs, bend squat. Really, that's a lot of work on your knees and your legs to be able to do that, right? If you can get more hip motion, you can soften your knees, right? You can soften your knees, but really it's how much mobility can you get in the backside of your hips? The more mobility you can get in the backside of the hips, then I can drive any load from here. My core, because all I'm doing, this is just all of a sudden I'm just going boom, I'm going to make this tight, and just by doing that, you see what happened kind of automatically? It automatically has a natural anti-gravity pop to it. You make the stone, and you push the stone. Watch like people, the Olympic deadlifters and things like that. Their big cue that they give them is get fat, because they get down in there and they say get fat, and then that creates as much, that's the power, and then all they do is they just drive with the hips.